fellow cheapskates, bike nerds, gear geeks, shredders, squids. I'm here to talk about this Deviate Claymore that I got last November, so about half a year ago. I'm finally getting around to making a bike check, sort of review video about it and some of the components on it. And I'm making it happen despite a raccoon, a very suspicious raccoon, lurking around back here. And I think I got some footage, so I'll drop that in here. But F you, raccoon, we're making this video. Alright, so let me first just talk about the bike overall. It's an amazing bike. I think part of the reason it's amazing for me is that I'm 6'4", and the reach on this bike is about, I think it's 520, 520 millimeters. So this is the first bike I've owned that really fits me. My last bike was a propane Taii, which is a really great bike, still for sale, and the reach is 491 on that for an XL, which is a little small, especially for me. So very fun bike, but it was a little squirrely in the steep, fast, chunky stuff. So the most remarkable thing about this bike, of course, is the high pivot, and it feels great. It doesn't feel very different than a regular bike, I don't think, except the rear end just works really well. It is smoother through bumpy stuff. You know, that rearward axle path is no joke, but it doesn't feel dead. It doesn't feel weird in corners. Still turns easily. Feels great. It's just a really good suspension setup, I think. I have read a review or two that kind of complained about the brake jack, you know, on these high pivot bikes with a lot of anti-rise. The brakes can kind of, the suspension can kind of firm up under hard braking, and that doesn't bother me too much. I actually kind of like that the geometry stays the same when you're really braking, and it has made me more conscious about dragging my brakes, which is probably good. You know, I'm trying to just stab the brakes real quick here and there. If you're just pulling on them kind of hard for a while instead, you do feel some of that anti-rise effect. But it's not that bad. When I got the bike, it had the Öhlins coil on it. It's a very long model number that I can't remember right now, but the newest Öhlins coil, and it felt great. I kind of wanted to try the new Rock Shocks with the hydraulic bottom out. It also feels amazing, and the hydraulic bottom out really works. Feels good. No harsh bottom outs. I had a lighter spring on there at one point and was bottoming out some, but didn't feel too bad. So yeah, it's an amazing bike, amazing frame, great all-rounder. This is my only mountain bike, and I ride it on mellow trails. Bike park season hasn't started here yet, but I'm sure this bike is going to be super fun in the park. So yeah, it's pretty fun everywhere. Sometimes when I'm riding it locally on the more mellow trails, I put a mellower tire in the back, a Maxxis Recon, which really speeds up the rolling and makes the rear end a little looser, which makes things a little more interesting and fun for me. Okay, so let's talk about some of these components. We'll start with the Zeb. It's a Zeb Ultimate, and it's great. It's the 2023 version with the Charger 3 damper, and yeah, it feels good. When I got it, there was an issue with the rebound feeling really slow, and I had it open up all the way and it just kind of felt dead. So I had it sent back. They said nothing was wrong with it, but it came back with faster rebound. So I don't know if there was some grease clogging a port, or maybe they put in some lighter weight oil than what it came with, but now it feels good. The only thing is, like a lot of people have noticed, it's kind of hard to get full travel with these new Zebs because they took up some of the positive air spring with that big negative air spring or air chamber. And because of that, it's very progressive. So even with no tokens in it, no volume spacers, it is very progressive, and I rarely bottom out. Maybe that'll change at the bike park, but for trail riding, it's just too progressive. So I got one of those True Tune inserts. I'll put a link for that. Super interesting technology. It basically uses this activated carbon to essentially make the air chamber bigger. So you put a thing inside, it seems like it should take up space, but basically it functions as, it makes it function like there's a bigger positive air chamber. So that'll be interesting to try out. By the way, I have a broken finger. It's that one. That's why I haven't tried it yet. So yeah, I'll do a video on that when I finally get a chance to do that. Let's talk about the cockpit. Got my nice 60 mil high-rise Spank bars, and I love these things. For someone as tall as me, even with the steerer spacers there, I still want some more height. And also you can roll them forward so that you're not compromising on reach. So if you're tall, get some 60 mil rise bars. Got the rev grips on here. Those are great for my old man hands. I'm probably going to appreciate those after breaking this finger. Hayes Dominion A4 brakes. They're really great. I just bled them for the first time and pretty straightforward. I did go back and do a lever bleed to pull some air bubbles out of the rear brake, which did make a difference. But yeah, there's a bit of throw, but once you hit, there's just so much power. And yeah, I mean, it's pretty hard to pull them down to the grips. So yeah, loving these brakes so far. Got the SRAM XX1 12-speed shifter there. I'll talk more about that in a minute because the rest of my drivetrain is Shimano, which some people might find kind of interesting. Got the Mutt drivetrain. I'll talk about the tires real quick. They're the new Specialized tires. These are the trail casing, and got the skin wall ones with the green hot patch, which kind of matches the bike. Looks pretty sick. And these tires are great. I've been a Maxxis guy for a long time. These I'm totally happy with. The front is the Butcher, kind of like maybe kind of in between a DHF and a Assegai. The rear is the Eliminator, which I guess is kind of like a DHR. I think it rolls a little faster, but yeah, I've been very happy with these. It's the trail casing, and I haven't had any pinch flats or anything yet. I do have a Tannis insert in the rear. Let's talk about the dropper situation. This is the 1UP 240 mil dropper, and it's connected to one of these ZTTO. I mean, it's basically a wolf tooth knockoff there, and it works great. Those things are like 15 bucks on AliExpress. I don't know, maybe, I guess I feel a little bad that it's a wolf tooth knockoff, but I can't beat the price. And it's got a bearing in there instead of a bushing, so nice light action. One quick tip about the 1UP dropper. This is a 34.9 opening, and this is a 31.6 diameter dropper. which is actually a lot lighter. So if you get you can save some weight by getting a narrower dropper and just putting a shim in there, which weighs almost nothing. So yeah, I actually did that because it was hard to find the 34.9 at the time, but turns out I saved some weight. Okay, let's talk about this weirdo drivetrain I'm running. So, like I said, I've got the SRAM XX1 12-speed shifter up front. Got a screaming deal on that. Was not planning on getting a silly fancy shifter, but it works great with the Shimano setup. And got the XT 45 tooth cassette in the back with an XTR medium cage derailleur. So this thing has a bit more ground clearance, and you know, you lose out on the 51 tooth cog, but who cares? Don't need that. Part of the reason I don't need that is because I'm running a 30 tooth oval. This is an absolute black oval, and I'll do a separate video on this, but I didn't know this going into it, but a high pivot bike, you need to make some adjustments for the oval because the chain is going up instead of back. You actually have to rotate the oval forward 69 degrees. Nice. All right, got my flat pedals on here right now. So maybe now would be a good time to explain the aesthetic I was going for with this bike, which was basically just to get as many gold parts on it as I can. So some of these parts came gold: the ring, the seat clamp. I think that's it, actually. The rest is just the magic of Rust-Oleum spray paint. So spray painted the pedals. Oh, I made these decals. That was definitely an embarrassing amount of work, but you know, I have a broken finger and some time on my hands, and the letters are straight, so it wasn't so horrible. I got a decal from, I don't know, eBay for the fork. And so let me show you some of these other spray painted parts. So I spray painted the spacers, spray painted the front of this $15 Amazon stem, spray painted the brake levers. There's another decal I made. So we'll see how that spray paint holds up. One thing I did not think about when I decided to go for the gold components is that it's very hard to match gold. And unlike silver, which I did for my last bike on the components, silver is the default color for bike components because metal is silver in color. But gold, you know, I'm not going to get a gold Shimano cassette. I'm not going to get gold rotors. There's lots of stuff you just can't get in gold. So there's inevitably going to be some mixing of gold and silver, but who cares? It's not a fashion show, but I think it still looks pretty sick. Oh, I also got the gold valves on there. Got those on Amazon, I think. Oh, one other thing to mention about the brakes is I put some SRAM HS2 rotors on. So the Hayes rotors are 1.9 millimeters thick, and the SRAM HS2s are 2 millimeters thick. And so far, it's been good. They feel great. So the wheels are another thing I haven't tried yet, except for just riding around the neighborhood. But they're a Chinese company that makes carbon wheels. I think they just make rims and spokes, carbon spokes. They're called BTLOS, which it's some acronym. They probably should have had a native English speaker come up with their name. I can't even remember what BTLOS stands for, but I remember it was kind of a clunky name. Anyway, they look like really nice carbon rims. They're kind of a shallow profile, and The spoke holes are asymmetrical, so you know, less force on the spokes. So on paper, they seem really good. We'll see how they feel on the trail, but yeah, they shaved off a bit of weight, and we'll see how they go. They were, I think, $700 with shipping, so pretty screaming deal for decent wheels if they do end up being decent, and they have a warranty. I got the Bitex hubs, which is like a good budget brand. I haven't tried those yet, and I tend to destroy hubs, so we'll see how those go. Hopefully I don't destroy them. I also got the ride wrap kit on here. That took, I don't know, it took a pretty long time, but you know, you just settle in, put on a podcast, and it's not too bad. And it's definitely protected my bike some. So the crash that broke my finger was hitting a tree right there. So it snapped the brake reservoir right there, and then it smashed into my middle finger and broke that. And in the process, it kind of nailed the bike in a few spots, but you can see on here, this is dried sap. Those aren't scratches. And when I got home, I thought my fork stanchions were all scratched up, but it was the same thing. It was just dried sap everywhere, tree blood. So I broke a finger, but that tree didn't fare very well either. I'll say one more thing, since this is the Cheapskate YouTube channel. Some of you might be wondering why I have this expensive boutique bike with all these fancy parts on it. The frame I was lucky enough to get when they first came out, and they were still selling it at the exchange rate, which was very good in the US at the time. So the frame now, I think with a shock, is $4,200, and I got it with the Olin shock for about $3,200, I think. So I saved, when you consider that it was an Olin's on there, it's over $1,000. And shortly after that, they started charging a separate price in the US to protect their dealers there. So wasn't really expecting to get a boutique bike, but it wasn't a bad deal. And if I can sell my Tai, someone please buy it. It is a sick bike if you're a little shorter than me. If I can sell that, yeah, it's not going to be too much money out of my pocket. And as far as the components, yeah, there's some nice stuff on here, like the XTR derailleur and the XX1 shifter. Those were just screaming deals on Facebook Marketplace. I think both of those. So yeah, I haven't spent a crazy amount of money on this bike. So I think that's it. Let me know if you guys have any questions. I'm going to make some videos about some of these components, just individual videos to go a little more in depth. But if you guys have any specific questions about components or the bike or anything, let's nerd out in that comment section. All right, thanks everybody. See you next time.